So Lahiru, you jumped from a fairly, what many of us will call a regular job, into being a tech entrepreneur a few months back. Tell us how that journey has been and some of the challenges that you faced.
Well, Anush, it's good that we took this interview at Coco, because this is where the idea of jumping in from, I was working at a think tank, to an entrepreneurial job began. For instance, I used to come here all the time, where I met Dilendra Vimalasekar, who was the chairman of our company, and who guided my ideas and molded them to get to where we are right now. Entrepreneurship, I think, and there is a little bit of dialogue which is happening in Sri Lanka about this right now, mainly in a positive way, on what it means to be an entrepreneur and the skills and so on. Looking at my own personal experience, I would say that the context of it mattered a great deal. How you grow up, what your key influences are. My parents, as you know, have been entrepreneurs, have run a small business. So I've been exposed to deal making from a very young age. So that was always in the back of my mind. Even working for a think tank, I had ideas of coming up with our own think tank at one point with strategic, because we felt there was a void for it. That didn't actually pick up. And then the idea of having an e-commerce company was largely motivated by the lack of a e-commerce space, which I thought for the electronics sphere. So when we started Takas, the key reason for it was I knew for a fact, as a shopper, as somebody who was looking for electronic stuff, I couldn't have a marketplace where I could compare products, knew the actual MSRP, because a lot of people will say this is the market price, and you know that more times than not you're being misled. So we wanted to build a company where we wanted to sell things, but we also wanted to serve the customer in the sense when a customer can come in and check for a wide range of products, not one camera. Maybe you'll have a selection of 20 cameras to pick from. So that was the key kind of motivator, because we felt that there was a space, and then it was just making the jump. So why would you want to basically jump from a set career path to where we are right now, or where I am right now, because we are a very small team? Well, it's first of all exciting to do it. Entrepreneurship, if nothing else, promises you that whether you become a successful entrepreneur or not a very successful one, it is an exciting move. So that was always enticing. The other thing is, sky's the limit generally. You don't have the institutional constraints when you become an entrepreneur, leading your own company, because you more or less drive the direction it can go to. It's a bit complicated on the route we currently took, because we raise funds for it. Maybe I can talk about it later. But generally speaking, entrepreneurship gives you that kind of freedom. So those were the key reasons why I wanted to get into it, and I was very lucky to get mentorship from people who knew about the business, knew about how the game was being played.
So tell me a little more about that. When you made the jump into being a tech entrepreneur, what are some of the real deciding factors that help you set this up and not grow it now? Because I think your experience and the experience of your company will hold a lot of lessons for other people who are either afraid to make the jump, or who have made the jump, or others who are generally trying to study what are the drivers of techno entrepreneurship.
Right.
Thinking of it in the overall context of Sri Lankan economy, and also attitudes.
As I mentioned before, the fact that I come from a family which was doing business helped a great deal. So it wasn't something completely alien to me. So I understood the area, so to speak. One of the key things which keep people away from entrepreneurship, I guess, or taking this chance, is the fact that it's not a secure income, or 2 years down the line you might not end up with anything other than the experiences which you can probably build on. So So that is always there. I'm not going to, I guess, beat around the bush about it. End of the day, you are, while you're very confident about what you're doing and your core strength, your team's core strength, there's no guarantees of it working out. But that also means that the rewards are just as good. It could be just from customer satisfaction to just making a boatload of money maybe. So that was one of the key reasons for the job. I wanted some change. The great thing about entrepreneurship, and maybe something which people don't know, is because Colombo is a very small community, there's a lot of people to help you along the way. So it is not this singular kind of journey which maybe my parents do. Maybe the stories which we generally hear. You generally hear about this rags to riches, I was selling stuff on the street, and there are those stories. But I think the dynamic has significantly changed. You can depend on your family members, to your friends who have helped, and again the mentorship. So the business community in Colombo at least, which I've been exposed to, has been a far friendlier affair than what I've been exposed to from in other fields. So people do try to nurture you and make you grow. I mean, from different businesses, it might be a different business ethic, but generally when I pitched ideas, people try to find strengths in them. The weaknesses were shown in a constructive way. So that really aided. I mean, this coffee shop where we started, the people who ran this, especially Sarah, were very supportive. When we first started off, they helped us create brand awareness to no cost at all for us. Dilendra, who is the chairman of my company and runs Eureka, helped a great deal. I mean, very hands-on approach, from how I talk to things such as how to negotiate, when does a negotiation start, were all key things. In regards to the technology part, again, I was very fortunate because my chairman is from a tech company. So I had a great deal of help getting that technology know-how together. And Anush, as you know, I'm not a tech kid by any stretch of the means. I use a BlackBerry which is outdated. I used to have an old Mac. But any company, like a tech company, you bring your strengths together with other people. So you build partnerships. So I've been very, very fortunate in building those partnerships together. When we are doing up our site, which is one of the better sites in Sri Lanka as far as speed, choice, capabilities site-wise. We were also very fortunate because we had some input from people around the world, and this is the kind of global world we live in. So when we started developing the site, we had some technical issues. We were very fortunate enough to get advice from the States and then later from India. And we are a very small company, but in a global world where we have Skype, it's very easy to kind of latch onto that and go.
So you've talked about the fact that the family background in entrepreneurship helped, the mentorships helped, the partnerships for the technology development both locally and globally have helped.
Yeah.
Something we haven't talked about is financing.
Right.
And that maybe in this last segment you can talk a little bit about how that journey has been, because for a lot of entrepreneurs that really is the big bottleneck.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about how the financing, how supportive banks or other financial initiatives have been in supporting a startup, some would say a risky startup, like yours.
Right. Because the issue is all startups, one of the first things about startups is most of them will fail. As even an entrepreneur, it's something which you have to learn. And you hear this, you might have 3 consecutive failures before you succeed. And that's the journey of a general entrepreneur. So if you take that as a granted, and then you go and pitch. So we had 2 to 3 different ways of raising funds for this company. Because generally good ideas by themselves don't start making money from day one. It takes a little while. So we needed to figure out what our bare minimum costs going in for a year was, and then raise those funds to stay a year and show some traction or show revenue. so we can maybe raise more funds along the line or become cash positive. We chose to use something called venture capitalists, or people who generally fund e-commerce or in our sphere, which are high risk but also very high reward for them. Because if it works out, they stand to earn a lot of money. And that's what they do. They also mentor the entrepreneurs such as myself, who are young, who's going to spend some time relatively young, and nurture us to grow, make businesses grow. So we basically, once we came up with an idea, we did all the back end stuff. How big is the market? How much we can stand to make in a X amount of time, and then we presented it to both local investors, which is the Lankan Angel Network right now, what is called the Lankan Angel Network, and we raised some of our funds internationally through some of the contacts we had, people who are holidaying here. One of the key things which a new entrepreneur has to learn and come to terms with is two things. And this is a shift from, I think, my father's generation. Father's generation used to build companies and run companies, and that was what they did. There was no cutting of the business at the right time, moving. So this is a significantly different move, and I kind of alluded to it about how much of control we actually have. Because from day one, we decided to give a certain percentage of our business away to shareholders, who actually has a say on how our business runs. Actually, it's very good oversight, because that means as a CEO, I can't write myself a big fat check, or even if I start making a lot of money, I can't buy a huge company car. So these people who invest the money will also look into how I deal with the business. I write reports to them to keep them informed. So the key thing is, if you feel like you have a good idea, bounce it off with your friends first, family, colleagues, and then do a due diligence on it. See what the market is like for the idea which you have, maybe locally or internationally. And if those things work, now there is, if you don't know anybody off the bat, like we were fortunate enough to know people who we can bounce with. There is an institution, again, as I mentioned, the Lankan Angel Network, which has come about, where you can put those ideas in, and then you get a great deal of mentorship, mold your ideas, and they are there to help you as well, as they are to make money and so on and so forth. And then they will help you raise the funds, which is required for your business.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lahiru, and I think your experience has some very valuable lessons for other entrepreneurs who want to take the same journey. So thank you very much for joining us on Talking Economics.
Thank you.